Hello and welcome to the NFC 360 weekly podcast. My name is producer Mark, as you will probably know from if you've watched the previous two videos. I'm back again, a mixture of people still being on their Christmas holidays and also people being down with this flu that's going around. So I've had to step from being behind the scenes to step up in the front just to get this on for you. Also joined by Matt, who was in the podcast last week, and after his Christmas break, we've got Joel back. How are you guys?
Spot on. How are we all doing?
I'm good. Rather
Excited
be behind the scenes. Nervous.
Yeah.
Now, before we go on to the Arsenal game tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a look back at what 2022 has been for Newcastle. Now, 2022 has been probably quite spectacular. Yeah, look, in terms of if we're going to look at now, this is the 2022 league table. Newcastle United would have had 72 points, a goal difference of plus 36, and would have finished fourth. So, if the 2022 Premier League form, Newcastle United and Eddie Howe would be playing Champions League football next season. What I'm going to do first, and this is probably a question to think about because it's probably quite a difficult one because there's been quite a few good games. I want to know your best home game. Now, there could be many reasons for that. Could be the atmosphere, could be the performance, could be the result, could be anything. But from your mind, what is your home game of the season? And I'm going to go to Matt first on this one.
Yeah, okay. Well, probably there's quite a few games, isn't there? Because obviously we've been absolutely unbelievable this season. But I'd have to say the Man City one, just because it was just like a massive roller coaster of emotions. It felt like we should have come out the game probably with a win. We were a bit hard done by. I think there was a foul from John Stones, which probably could have been a penalty. But the overall view of the game was just I couldn't quite believe it. We went toe to toe and we matched Manchester City, who were the title winners from last year, and it felt like we held our own. And if not more, we probably should have won the game. And that probably there shows how far we've come as a team and as a club in such a short space of time. So I probably have to go that game. To be fair.
Good choice. Joel, for yours.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been asked this question on a previous podcast, and I definitely narrowed it down between the Arsenal and the Man City game. But for me, I think it has to be the Arsenal one that just pips it, because I mean it was the last game of the season, wasn't it?
Last home game.
Yeah, last home game of the season, and I just thought the entire occasion, I don't think that atmosphere has been matched like to that level since. Obviously, Staveley made a cameo at the start and I think at the end as well. She came round with the players. The performance itself would dominated Arsenal for 90 minutes, an absolute breeze by, and you wouldn't have a clue that they were playing for Champions League, like a Champions League spot. So the fact we managed to deny them that place, dominate them all game, keep a clean sheet, and win 2-0. And like I said again, with the atmosphere, I think for me that has been the best home game of 2022.
Both of the ones that you mentioned are the choices. It's very difficult when you look at it because there's been some really good performance. You look at the Everton 3-1, you look at the Leicester City 2-1 performance, you look at Arsenal, you look at the Man City. Aston Villa were won 4-0, we've beaten Chelsea 1-0 with Joe Willock and that. Yeah, so there's been quite a lot of ones. I agree with you in terms of the atmosphere of the Arsenal game. It was just amazing. But I probably do have to side for the Man City one, just because I think in terms of where you're going to show where you are and how you've improved, it has to be that one because, one, it was one hell of an entertaining game. As a neutral, you would have been sat watching that game going, can we please just play on and play on and play on? I could watch this for hours. It was just two teams who had the attacking intent, who wanted to just go for the game. And I would say for probably the majority of the game, we were on top and we were the better side compared to Manchester City. And I think, as Matt said, it was where you did feel hard done by. Listen, I left that game feeling so disappointed that we got a draw with Manchester City. Now, you look at the fact that just in, I think, was it December in 2021, so the previous season, we'd lost, was it 4-0 or 4-1 to them? I think it might have been 4-1. So you look at that and thinking, right, so we got absolutely tanked by them, both home and away. We've now drew with them. We've scored 3 goals. Erling Haaland, was playing in that game, who's like a monster of a player, and we're coming away disappointed. And that, for me, just proved how good it was a performance that was for people to be going away thinking, I'm disappointed we've got a draw with Manchester City. Yeah, we should be going. Tell you what, that's a cracking result. That, we're due with the champions. So that, for me, was probably the home game where I probably looked at that and went, I think there's something special here. And that's where that was the game where in my mind I went, I think something special could be happening here, because just the performance levels of those players was just unreal. And it was like amazing to watch. Yeah. And I went mental when we went 3-1 up, and I thought, this is just
the game was done.
Yeah. And most people probably did. The players probably didn't. That's probably why we conceded the 2. But so frustrating. But even at 3-3, and rather instead of sitting back, we were still trying to go home in the game. And that, for me, is I absolutely love that we've got a team that does that. Because if we went 3-1 up under Steve Bruce, I know, we wouldn't have. But if we had, we would have just sat back, and we would have invited Man City on, and the likelihood we probably would have lost that game in the end. Now we're going to move on to the best away game, and there's probably a couple in there. I think I know mine already, but I'm going to go to you, Joel, first for this one.
Right. I mean, I'm going to probably forget some here, but I know I'm going to go with the one off the top of my head, which is fairly recently, and say the Tottenham one. I didn't see all the game because I was actually working at the time, but look, I was fortunate enough to catch when the goals did go in. And just to see Almiron continue his form, I mean, that goal, the little mazy run, the finish, I caught a bit of the second half as well, and we just seemed to be like, away at Tottenham was such a stamp mark on, we're Newcastle, we're not here to mess about. We are genuine top 4, and now, as we know, title contenders this season. And I just thought that solidified our spot as being in the top, 5 or 6 you can class it as now. So I do think it was synonymous with Newcastle's success this season. And there's going to be other games that I can't currently think of, but that off the top of my head is definitely up there.
And Matt, yourself?
Yeah, the Fulham game was decent. After similar to Joel and his view on your most recent games, I went to the Leicester away last season, and I think it's 4-0. No, was it 4-0?
Yeah,
I believe it's 4-0. Yeah, I was there, and it was a miserable day, but the fans were just incredible. We kept singing literally until the end, and at one point we were literally just we were just laughing about the fact we were losing 4-0. But to come back the year after and absolutely smash them, the same scoreline, it just felt like, again, how far we've come as a team. We absolutely bossed them at their place, and to do it with so much confidence and with so much class, it just felt like we're such a different team, a different club, and the feeling's just like incredible now. And unfortunately, I didn't go to that game, but that just reminded me to last season's game. I know we did quite well.
I think you mean that fortunately.
Fortunately, yeah. Because I don't have a lot of luck when I go to games, but around that period, we did have a good run, but it just felt like there were still little bits that were creeping in from previous regimes. But no, it just felt amazing, that 4-0 against Leicester. It just felt like, you know what? You did it to us last season. We're going to do it to you this season. What do you think, Mark?
it's difficult for me, but the one that I am gonna go with is the Spurs one, because for me, again, when you're looking at that and you're thinking, right, this is a Spurs side that had won every game at home at the season. They'd had a record where they'd started winning games towards the end of last season. Obviously, they've got a great manager in terms of Conte. They had Harry Kane and Son, Youngmin Song in there, and the fact that we, despite probably the first little opening bit where we did seem a little bit shaky, we got together. We did what we needed to do. We did the high pressing, which I think we're probably the best team at doing that. And just the performance, I said, even when they got the one back, I don't think I was ever. You've, as a Newcastle fan, you've got that built-in sort of like nervousness about that, but I don't think I was like really worried, because honestly, I don't think Spurs were able to create a threat to get the game at 2-2. We just bossed it, and like I said, when you look at it, the game, obviously the fans were absolutely soaking because it was obviously absolutely piddling down. It for me, I remember watching the whole game and going, what a performance. That is probably the best away performance I've seen from that team. It was just unreal. And like I said, when you've got towards the end of the game, you've got Joe Linton coming back, then you've got Bruno in the middle back, then you've got this is it is, and it's what everyone says. This is a united team, but it's a united club from everywhere, from the fans and everything, and it is just immense to watch. I believe you've thought of another away game, so we'll get that thought on that one there.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was last season, but it was last season. It was just in 2022. But in mid-March, the Southampton away game. It was my first away game. Unbelievable day out, like fantastic in general. Obviously, it was Bruno's debut. He managed to score the winning goal after the fixture got rescheduled. Hasenhüttl was fuming. We had these new signings. I remember going into half time. They were having digs that were playing like money, money, money. All this music to try and get in our heads, and then came out second half. We've obviously beat them, taken absolute liberty out of Southampton fans. It was an unbelievable display. Every person involved in the goal that game was a new signing, which just made it so much better.
Yeah, and Chris Wood got the equaliser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think Southampton had went ahead.
Yeah.
Chris Wood got the equaliser, and obviously that cheeky
then the
little back
assist as well. I'm sure it was by someone. Was it Dan Burn? I'm sure someone you got the assist. I can't remember.
I thought it was Shelby.
Might have been Shelby, but I'm sure
it was Shelby who the assist.
Wood and Bruno scored then. Yeah, but two new signings after Hasenhüttl really, really kicked off was just hilarious. And to see Bruno for the first time, you just knew he was magic when you saw him dictate the entire game and then score a goal of that caliber. And then obviously to celebrate right in front of the fans as well. It was just an unbelievable experience from a personal point, and definitely, again, synonymous with the rise of Bruno. And just it was so good to see him for the first time.
Yeah, you could also look at the Brentford game where I think obviously you were nervous because obviously Brentford actually had quite a good record. They were good at home. If my memory serves me correct, I think we won.
Is it 2-0?
I'm thinking 2-0, and I'm thinking the goals were Joe Linton and Joe Willock.
I think it was 2-0, and I think Brentford had a player sent off.
Yeah, they did. They had, I think, De Silva sent off very early on. Mike Dean was the referee, but if my memory serves me correct, I think it was. I know Joe Willock scored one, but I'm sure Joe Linton scored one as well. Because Joe Linton scored against Brentford at home, the 3-3 one, and everyone says that Joe Linton loves Brentford. But no, I think that there's probably games that we'll forget, but just some like really good games in terms of like when you look at it and the performances. Like even going to Old Trafford, where and getting a draw, it's like really, really good in terms of like what we can do in the performances that we've got. The one that we're going to look at now, again, just where we're going to something which I thought about is your best moment So your best moment from it could be from a game, it could be a goal, it could be a war flags performance, it could be whatever. What was your best moment of 2022 for Newcastle?
You go first, Mark. Let me have some time to think about that.
I'll go first. My moment of the season was Bruno. My moment of 2022 was Bruno Guimaraes' winning goal against Leicester City at home. Because that, honestly, the stadium erupted. Your fans were going absolutely mental. And that was the moment where I genuinely felt we were safe. And from starting from the position where we were, it was just an unreal feeling. So that it was that moment where I went, yeah, we're safe. Yeah, I'm confident that we're safe. And I said, just with it being at the very end of the game, a great advantage played by the referee, because I think Joe Linton got fouled and he let the game go on. And for Bruno to get that winning goal, it was like just amazing. And that feeling for me was the one, because that's where that cemented what's happening now, because that secured our safety, which then took us into where we are now, and the fact that we're now where we are. So for me, that's probably my moment of 2022, because that was the start of everything that we've got now. We'll go to Matt next.
The best moment, well, I've got two, but the best moment will be the January window when we signed Bruno Guimaraes. That's one of the best moments, because he's one of the best players I've ever seen play for Newcastle. But going back to the game that Joel spoke about, the Arsenal game, when that finished, it felt like we're ready. Like, here we are. It felt like it was done. Everything that whole season, because obviously that was still part of the season from the old regime, and it felt like once that season's done, I know we did well, we finished and we stayed up comfortably. But once that season was over with, it felt like we could then look forward and forget about the past completely. And it was like a sense of relief at the end of that game, the last home game. We absolutely battered Arsenal. It just felt like they didn't have a sniff all game. And when Bruno scored that, was it Bruno scored the second goal?
Yes. Yeah, Bruno scored the second goal.
It just felt like the sense of relief from that game. It just felt incredible. And I knew that the year after it would just be upwards and onwards, and that's exactly what's happening. So I'd have to go with that. I'd have to go with that game.
I agree with you. I actually the turning point for me in terms of that game, I think when you look at it, is it was the start 15 minutes before, and I've never seen that before. But the flags were waving from 50 minutes. The noise started 15 minutes before kickoff. I've never seen it before, and I've never seen it since. And I'd love to see it happening.
It felt like,
but that for me, and that noise and that performance and all the flags, that shook the Arsenal players, and they dropped. They couldn't handle it, and they wilted, and they went, "We can't do this." And the Newcastle players went, "Yeah, this is it. This is what I'm here for. This is what." Yeah. So that, yeah, to be honest, there's so many moments, but like I said, I think it was the start, because that start in terms of like the atmosphere was what got us the result, because the Arsenal players couldn't handle it and they bottled it.
It felt like people in the stadium thought the same thing as well, though. I think that's probably why the atmosphere was like it was. It probably felt like, right, this is it now. Last home game, we can get rid of it. It's done. And the fact that we played incredible, it just felt like a big adrenaline rush for everybody. And I don't think I've experienced anything like that in a stadium, for a while, to be fair. And I think everybody felt the same as I did.
And Joel, your moment of the season?
Yeah, I'll firstly say I agree with all them. I think the Arsenal end of Arsenal game. I know completely what you mean, Matt. Like that was really, really just like that season's done. Everything from the past that I've experienced personally with Newcastle's just gone, and we're on this new chapter. All of that was brilliant. I'm going to do a few honourable shout outs before I get my main one. Again, the Bruno Guimaraes winner against Southampton. Everyone just went wild there. It was such a good goal, like a flying back heel. No, even though no one knew at the time, because we just kind of saw the ball go in. So that's up there. I think the Trippier free kick against Everton's also got to be up there because, you know, we've just got this kind of unspoken rivalry with Everton. And everyone hates Pickford. We hate the fans. And then when he just put that in and they were silenced, it was just unbelievable. Such a good free kick. But for me, it's a moment that hasn't been mentioned yet. And it just creeps in at the end of January in 2022. And it was the biggest change. It was the changing point of the season when we were in 19th place. We'd only won one game in 20-ish, I think.
Leeds United away, Shelby goal.
Yeah, we beat Leeds 1-0, and then obviously went on to win. It was a fair few games after that, wasn't it? Which, I mean, the run of form.
We went away to Saudi Arabia after that. So we played the Leeds game, we went away to Saudi Arabia, and then we came back. And I think was the first game not the Everton home game?
Yes, Everton home. I think it was.
And then we played Everton and Villa at home, which sort of like put on the run that we were on. So I'll also say I think that Everton game was probably along with the Man City game, but that Everton game is probably the best game I've seen from St. Maximin. It was just unplayable then, and again I think in the Man City game, from that side. So they're all great points, and like I said, there's so many that you could go through in terms of looking at moments of the season. We're gonna go. We'll do two, which is best signing and then best goal. So your signing of 2022, and we'll go with Joel first.
I mean, I think everyone's going to be given the same answer here, or at least between two players. You've got, for me, I'll narrow it down straight away. We've got, I mean, before I even do that, we'll just have to big thanks to, you know, Nick Pope. He's came in and done absolutely like amazing. We've got the most clean sheets in the league. He's made some terrific saves, that match-winning saves, in fact, over the season so far. So I will have to mention him. There's others as well, Dan Burn and stuff. But for me, the top two are Trippier and Bruno. But I think Bruno pips it for me from a personal level, just watching him, how talented he is, to get the fact that at the time it was kind of only Arsenal as like another big team that were interested in him. Just still, I'm perplexed by it. I don't know why no one else has went in for him because he is just so good. And then obviously Trippier as well. I mean, I think you'd probably argue Trippier has been the most consistent player of the season. The amount of goals he's contributed to, his delivery, set pieces, crosses, just everything. And then he's just a step above any other defender I think I've ever really seen play for Newcastle. His quality just shows every game. His first touch, his interceptions. He's not that tall, but he seems to win every header that comes his way. But I will say, I think Bruno is the best because I think he's the best player we've got in the team. I think he's now proven himself to be one of the best midfielders in the league as well. And I think we're going to be really lucky to keep a hold of him. Fingers crossed that he is going to sign that new contract that's been rumoured the past week or so, paying, I think, $200,000 a week, which I absolutely don't mind at all, to keep a player of his calibre. So, yeah, for me, it's got to be Bruno.
Matt, I think I probably know your answer already, but who's your signing of the season of 2022?
I was going to say, I can't remember a time when a club have signed so many players in January and they've all gone so right. All I think we've made 5 signings in January. I know, yeah, but I'm talking just January here.
So January we signed Kieran Trippier,
Matt Target,
Chris Wood,
Bruno
and Dan Burn. Big Dan Burn.
All of them have played a massive part. Obviously, some bigger than others because Chris Wood's, a bit of a part player there. But at the time,
Chris Wood did play most of the run that we had where we won the games. He might not have scored the goals, but he does other things and he works hard and he gets around and he sort of like bullies defenders there. So yeah, I agree. I don't think we've had a signing that went wrong, either in the winter window or the summer window under the new regime.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a case of I don't think I've seen that before. So, including the summer as well. Obviously, Nick Pope's been great, just like Joel said. Every single signing we made this year has been, a good player, and they've done a great job for the team. If you have to single one out or two out, Bruno, I think, like you say, is the most technical player we've signed, and obviously I couldn't believe it when we did sign him because, seeing a player who plays for Brazil come join us when he did, it just felt like there's no way this is true. It cannot be real because at the time we were lower down in the table, and he wants to be playing for these top clubs in the Champions League, and that felt like a massive statement signing. Bruno's obviously at the top of the list, but you've got to put Trippier up there as well because Kieran Trippier it's not just how good he is technically and how good he is as a right back. It's what he brings off the pitch and on the pitch. You can see him. He's literally telling every individual player where to go, what to do, and it just feels like the impact he has is more of like a dad role, and whereas Bruno's impact is more of he's a technical player who's going to pop the ball between the centre halves and the fullbacks. So the both for me at the top, but obviously just slightly different roles, if that makes sense. I couldn't choose one out the other.
Well, both you seem to be sitting on the fence. I'm not going to sit on the fence. I'm going to say the signing of the season is Kieran Trippier, and the reason for that is it's got nothing to do in terms of like his ability, because we know his ability, but it's the fact that he was the player that came and signed for us and trusted in the plan and trusted in the owners, that then led us to get Bruno Guimaraes, Chris Wood, Dan Burn, Matt Targett, Sven Botman, Alexander Isak, all these players we got because Kieran Trippier believed in the project right from the start. So for me, he's got to be the sign of the season, because if he hadn't signed, we might not be where we are now, and we might not have the players that we've signed now. So that was the confidence one for me, because I think even someone like Bruno might have looked at that and went, hang on, this is Kieran Trippier. He's won the Liga with Atletico Madrid. He's played in the Champions League. Yeah. Yet he's going there. Oh, no. Yeah, so that's the one for me. But like you said, it is amazing when you look at them all and you look at the fact that Matt Targett now isn't getting in the squad because Dan Burn, who we all thought had the best partnership with Sven Botman and they were absolutely amazing as a back pair, and you're like, you can never break them up, and then Sven Botman's come in, and then you're like, Sven Botman and Fabian Schär is now the best defensive partnership there, and Dan Burn has now moved to left back and is doing such a good job that he's leaving Matt Targett out. Now, yes, I know he's got the injury at the moment, which is going to keep him out, but the fact that you've got a player like Matt Targett who's ready to come in is fantastic. You then look at the fact that we've got, like you said, Nick Pope, and every single person was probably going, well, we don't need another keeper. I actually believe that we did, despite the fact of how good Dubravka is. Nick Pope, is just that step above. Yeah, he can command the box. He's got amazing saves, and if we just go back to the Leeds game, that rush that he had to get out in the first half to clear that ball away, he's just, for me, he's the step above, and he's just like been met. And to get him for 10 million, it's just unreal. You then look at the fact that we've got Isak, who, yes, I know he's injured, but I think he will be a hell of a player. Yeah, I don't think this club would have splashed out 60 million if they didn't believe he was going to be one hell of a player. So you just look at all that. Yeah, it's just immense in terms of what we've done. We're going to go with the final one now. And we'll probably got quite a lot to choose from, and probably just from one player alone, because he seems to have been having a goal of the season campaign at the minute. Let's go with your best goal of 2022.
I know mine already. It was just a ridiculous goal. It shouldn't have been allowed to happen. It was Miggy's at Fulham. Miggy's at Fulham. I've never. Where the hell did that come from? I mean, I know he's been playing well, but that's just ridiculous. That's something, Gareth Bale was doing at Tottenham and at Real Madrid. That's just what Miggy does now, I'm afraid. So he's obviously going to be winning the Ballon d'Or next year. So if he's scoring goals like that, I mean, that's just ridiculous. When I saw that go in, the technique and the way he managed to do it and just pop it, that is just like, it was so satisfying to watch. I don't know what you two think, but that was just ridiculous for me. Has to be that one.
Yeah, even though John Anderson meant he didn't mean it. Yeah. Oh no,
Yeah,
he meant it.
I don't know where's he crossed it to then.
Yeah, no, he 100% meant it, and it was just that ball from Bruno as well was just like pitch. It was like symmetry. Matt. So Matt's given his. Joel, what's yours?
Again, I do think technically speaking, that Almiron one's not going to be. Well, it hasn't been topped. I think that is definitely the best goal of the year. But I mean, there's been so many contenders. You know, you've got Bruno's one outside the box. Who was that? Was that against Arsenal? The outside. Who was the outside the box?
Southampton. It Southampton where he's whipped it in.
No,
yeah, there was one outside the box where he finished in the bottom left corner.
Oh, that was at home, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it this season?
It might have been the back end of last season, but it was just no, or maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure.
Was it not Brentford?
I know. Possibly Brentford.
Because Brentford, he scored that header. Do you know from the routine?
Yeah,
I think it was a free kick, and Trippier had put it in. It was either a corner. Actually, I think it was a corner, and Bruno just stood off behind, like unopposed, and went in with the header. And then in the second half, he ran in and put the ball from outside the box, I think, in the bottom corner. So I do think it was the Brentford game where
I mean, you've got loads to choose from. Like again, we'll bring up the Trippier free kick against Everton. I loved Fabian Shaw's first goal of the one he scored. It was originally against Burnley, and he literally scored a carbon copy of it. What was
Forest?
Forest, yeah.
Top
just a typical Fab Shaw drive forward and just smash. And I think we only win that game by one as well. I think he scored.
No, it was 2-0 because there was another goal scored by Callum Wilson. If I remember rightly, it was a St. Maximin assist with the ball in. And I loved that goal as well. Yeah, from watching it, because it was just like the skill in that in terms of the ball in and the finish. So that was just unreal. I said
there's so many, but I'll say the most technical one and the hardest to score was definitely Almiron. So I'll go with that.
Do you know, it's hard not to say that the Almiron Fulham one, but there's a part of me where I'd also say the Almiron one against Leicester. Because the work between Miggy, Trippier and Bruno, the fact that Bruno started it off in our own half and managed to get up to where he was going to be, it was just, like I said, if a Man City had scored that, people would have been raving on about that for months and months and months. It was just a phenomenal play. The goal Mickey scored against Aston Villa was just stunning. It was outside the box and it was one heck of a finish. I'm probably not going to say his goal against Brentford because that was quite an easy one for Mickey that time. But there's so many. But
he's got his own little competition, hasn't he?
That's what I've said. Yeah. He scored a cracker against who was it? Everton, and we actually won that goal by his goal because I think we won 1-0.
When was that goal against Palace as well? Was that in 2021?
It was 2022. It was last season. It was April because I couldn't attend that game because I
was behind that goal. I remember that going in thinking.
Even that one, yeah. He was finishing off last season, just saying, "I'm just going to give you a taste of what I'm going to do next season." So I've got to say, the transformation that Eddie Howe's been able to do in all the players. But you look at the fact that Joe Linton now, and then you look at what he's done with Miguel Almiron, and to get him playing to what he's playing at now, is just unreal. He's a different player, and I absolutely love watching him. He's a joy to watch. Yeah, when you watch some of the things that he does. But I probably will go different. I'll probably go for the Leicester goal just purely because for me, it was just that intricacy in the team and stuff and that, and it just And that sort of like set what off from like where we'd been, because obviously that was another thing which was quite strange. That was the first game back since in terms of the league game since this winter break because of the World Cup. And for us to pick up where we'd basically left off, which was being unbeaten and winning games and that. So you've got to look at that. Obviously, we spoke about our best signings. We spoke about that. It is January. It is the transfer window. So it's not just 2023. It's January. It's the transfer window open, which we're probably all excited about. So we're going to look at transfer targets. Now, obviously, as we had been discussing and as we had been looking at, Ed Aarons of The Guardian has mentioned and says that he understands that Leicester City are interested in signing Martin Dubravka. Now, obviously, us recalling them gives us a fantastic opportunity because, even if we are left with Karius and Darlow, we've got Pope as well. So you've got three really good quality keepers in that sense. But it also helps the fact that Martin Dubravka could be used as a potential part of a swap deal or a part player, part finance deal, which can help with our FFP. Not that any other club seems to be worried about that, but we're trying to be prudent. We're trying to do things the right way, and that is exactly how we should be doing it. That's how you're going to build a football club. So if we're going to look at Leicester, and let's say that this Martin Dubravka thing is real, is he more likely to be part of a Yuri Tillemans deal or a James Maddison deal?
I think probably, I don't know. I think our priorities slightly shifted from the summer transfer window with recently Shelvey getting injured. So I do think our priority is that number 6, which will allow Bruno to stay in that centre mid spot and push forward and, join the attack. But I'm not sure. I don't know what price tag Leicester are going to be putting on Maddison. I think is Tillemans out of contract at the end of the season?
Tillemans out of contract at the end of the season. So I would probably say Tillemans, you're probably looking 20 million.
Yeah, you've got that sort of angle to take as well.
Question is, how much would you value Dubravka at?
15.
I'd probably put him at the 15-20 million mark as well.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't go past 15, but I think between that 12 to 15 million we could probably get for him. But I think Tillemans is probably going to be a higher priority at the moment than Maddison, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I actually think the Maddison deal could be left until the summer. That's just my thinking of that, because you're looking at that and you're going, he's costing quite a lot. He's got 18 months left on his deal. But then when you look at it in terms of what's going to happen come the summer, you've lost those months now. So there's even less time on his contract. And I think you'd probably look at that and go, let's do that. Let's go for that. I actually think Tillemans would be probably the better fit in terms of what we probably need right now. He can play multiple positions because, if we look at it when he was playing against us, he was in that the defensive role that he had, but he can also score some screamers, as we'd seen on Match of the Day too. Just on Sunday when he'd score, he was part of the goal. So he can score goals, he can create, he can assist, and he can also be defensive. So I would look at that and go, could we try a straight swap deal for Tillemans and Dubravka? And I think it would probably work out the best because Leicester City are desperate for a keeper, because I don't think the keeper that they've got is any good. Dubravka, he's good, but does he really want to be sitting second choice? I know he's put that comment on there, about returning to us, but does he really want to be sitting second choice? I don't think so. I think he probably wants to be playing. And if we've got, and it probably is, we probably got an inkling that Leicester are probably interested. And that's probably why we recalled him. Because otherwise there's no sense. Why would you recall him? When you've got players in the squad already. You've got Darlow, who's fit. Even if you look at Gillespie, if the club didn't want to go for carriers, you've got Gillespie, in there as well. So I just can't see that happening. And then we've got Mighty Mags, who just said, writing on the wall, Dubs off to Leicester. Rich, I wouldn't be mad about it in terms of that. I think he deserves to go to his side and play realistically. I just think it's something that, when you're looking at that, it's probably something that I think it would work out the best for everyone. But if we're looking at the two Leicester players, I think Tielemans is probably the one that I think, if we're looking at, probably a more realistic one. Even if it's a case that we'll give them Dubravka and 5 million. We've not spent a lot in terms of the transfer, so that's quite a decent one there. We've got a player who's the midfielder that we want. We've got rid of a keeper that we probably don't need. So it works out the best for everyone. And like I said, Tielemans, who probably wouldn't, and this is the thing, Yuri Tielemans probably at the start of the season wouldn't have came to us. But looking at where we are now, and looking at the fact that you could have a midfield of Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton, and Yuri Tielemans, is quite exciting one. And then if you look at the fact that you could have St. Maximin on one wing, Miggy on the other, there's just something in there. Ray's just put any truth in the bit of the Alan Varela, and I think he's the Boca Juniors midfielder.
Yeah, he's the central defensive midfielder. For that.
There's a couple of stories that have come out there, but there's nothing I would say concrete. So whilst the stories out there, and you're gonna get rumor. Yeah, this is the thing though, because of where Newcastle are now, because of where the club has money, you're gonna have so many players linked with us, because either clubs are wanting to get them off their books, or the agents are going to link them to Newcastle because they're trying to force a move. Looking at him, he's 21, so he's a player who, is a one for the future, which is the model that we're looking at. I think the rumor was 18 million euros. That one, so it's quite a chunk. But there's also a belief that if he did sign, he'd be ready. He could be ready now. From that one, and a lot of, I think, discussions on there were that you look at some of the Argentinian midfielders now. Do you know what? I should know his name because it's been everywhere, but it's completely gone blank. It's Enzo
Fernandez.
That's it, Enzo Fernandez. There's a lot of talk where they're saying that he could be the next Enzo Fernandez, moves from Argentina and within that very short period of time becomes a massive name and becomes a really good player. So South America could be somewhere that we look at. Obviously we have made a January signing, but people have probably forgot because it was agreed on, which is Garan Kuron, who is travelling over here. He is probably going to train, but the likelihood is he will go out on loan, which, we're not going to sign a player and then just have him training and not really playing. There's a part of me where I'd love to see him in the squad for Sheffield Wednesday. There's just something in that, but whether or not that would happen or not, you're looking at that. Question that I'm going to ask for both years in terms of the transfers is, if let's say we need to look at a position, what are the positions that you think we need to strengthen in this window?
I mean, I'll start. I think definitely at the minute that the priority is a CDM, and then just in behind that, I would say it's not a priority, but if you gain any luck, if Callum Wilson, touch wood, he does get injured, Chris Wood, and I know we've praised him kind of this podcast, but I think for me, you can stick any striker in the Premier League from any club in that position, and they do just as good as a job. I think everyone knows he's a pretty average player. And when he does come into the side, he's not guaranteed to score goals. And we have to rely on other outlets from like the likes of Almiron, Guimaraes, Maxi and Joe Linton and stuff. So I wouldn't mind signing another striker again. Another one we've been linked to, Marcus Thuram, French national. He looks, I haven't saw loads of him, but he looks athletic, fairly tall, something that he would suit the role sort of Wilson plays, because he's got that strength, hold up play, and he's got a good burst of acceleration as well. So I think going in behind, he offers more than Wood, who's less mobile, you could say, than Wilson. And interestingly, Marcus Thuram's brother, this hasn't been reported on as much, but I was reading Chris Woff's column in The Athletic this morning, and he's got a brother called, let me have a look. It is Kefran Thuram, who is a CDM. He's only 19 years of age, 6'4", and apparently we've been watching him as well. So that could be one to keep an eye on. But answering back to the original question, I do think CDM is the most important part, maybe followed by a striker. And I know we're looking at young right backs as well, which you could argue if Trippier gets injured, but Kraft's still out, so we then have to play someone out of position. So possibly then right back. Yeah, Manquillo, forgotten player. Literally, I've not seen him in that long. But again, you wouldn't probably want to rely on him.
He's been on the bench recently, so he hasn't been that forgotten because he's been on the bench. Ria's asked the question of Isak is yet to come back. I got the pronunciation right, Max. Yeah, you can't tell us off for that. He's going to be coming back soon. Is a striker really needed?
Good question. I don't know. This is an interesting one here. I'm not 100% confident that Isak is going to... Well, I know for a fact that he's not going to be joining the starting XI straight away. And when he does, with him playing in left wing for the majority of last season, and I know his stats did drop. He didn't score as many goals for Sociedad as he did in striker. But when you've got an informed Wilson, I just can't see Isak taking that place. And then are you going to force him in with the left wing? This is actually something I asked on my own Twitter about a few days ago. How's Isak going to fit in? And, how's Max even going to come back in the 11 with Joe Linton and Willock playing well at the moment? So I think another striker. Yes, we've got Isak, Wilson and Wood. Wood, is he going to be here at the end of the season? I don't know.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask. If we, let's say, sign that Marcus Thuram, would that be because Chris Wood is likely to move on? So I think that's the only reason we'd probably see a striker sign. So if it's the case, you look at that. You look at the fact that Leeds United do need a striker because they do struggle with that. Could Chris Wood go back to Leeds? And so I think that's the only one. I agree in terms of the CDM. I think that is something that is needed because of the Shelby injury. I'm probably one of those ones who are now looking and going, I think it's time to move Shelby along. He's just picking up too many injuries from now in that, and he's not getting any younger. I just think, he's been a fantastic servant. He's been a cracking player.
Brilliant player.
Now's probably the time where we look and go, right, great servant, John Joe, but we now need to move on. You look at the fact of Isaac Hayden, cracking player, but we do need to move on. And if we're going to be in, let's say we are going to finish in the Champions League spot, is John Joe Shelby good enough to play in there? Not necessarily sure from that point. The only good thing that John Joe Shelby was able to do was to spray the balls, but you've now got two defensive, central defenders who are as good as anyone's. I think Botman, for me, some of his passing is just unreal. So and Sean's the same. So if you've got those two who are able to do basically what Shelby does, is he needed? Probably not. I actually think the young right back is a one that we probably do need to look at because of the fact that Kraft's out injured, and I'm not really confident with Manquillo, to be fair. Sorry, Javier, but when you're looking at where we are now and the quality that we've got, I don't think Manquillo is anywhere near that. Obviously, you will look at that now and you go, yeah, I agree 100%. Well, nearly agree. Richie, I think it needs to move on. Shelby does, Fraser does, Dummett does. Murphy, I will disagree with, because I actually think this season he's proven that he has come on, he has performed in games, he is working hard, and his passion for me, he is in Newcastle lad. Look, look how he celebrated our cup win in Saudi. Yeah, that is the path, and people can laugh at him, but hey, that's how I want players to look.
I think he's a one-dimensional player, Murphy, but he's definitely helped the squad out this season 100%. And I mean, when you turn to the bench, when you're looking for an impact sub, and you've used up the likes of Maxi, it really is an attacking outlet. You kind of go to Murphy and go, right, this is the only other player that can come on with his pace. I mean, you could argue Elliot Anderson, but again, he's had a few niggles recently. So, like I said, I mean, when
Murphy can also play right back.
Yeah. Well,
there was, I might have been in the friendly game.
Was it not? You played for the cup in right back?
No, I don't think it was a cup game. I think it was the friendly game. Well, see, I think everyone was surprised that he'd put all the youngsters on, but he'd moved Murphy up to right back because he was bringing one of the youngsters on, and his name's completely slipped my mind. In fact, I think it was a young lad, Lewis Miley, and he brought him onto the wing and moved Murphy there. So yeah, you look at that. We also point out that obviously that we may need cover at left back. I don't agree with that one, because if we look at the minute, you've got Paul Dummett who can play there. You've got Matt Targett who can play there. You've got Dan Burn who can play there.
And then if you
Dummett can play there. So you look at that and you're going, I think we're probably comfortable in that sense. Even if
I think that would be like a next season signing, like a summer transfer. If you're really then going to go out and splash for a very good technical, like left wing back sort of position, then I'd probably say that would be more in the summer transfer window.
Yeah. So if you're looking at more of like a player who's equal to probably Trippier in terms of like what Trippier does on the right wing, if you can get that, because that's what I've always said. If you can get that, so like. A Trippier, but on the left, and a central defensive midfielder who can sit back to basically make it a three at the back when you've got your full backs attacking. It's just going to be so much easier because you've got Miggy and Maxi who can be the ones who like to do the run in, but then you can have your Trippier and whichever left back you want who overlap. So you've got so many more options in terms of that. So I agree with that. But right now, and it was a question that was asked on the Look Ahead show that we did on Friday by Mark McCallum, which was, do you want to upset this current team? And the consensus was one, maybe two signings this window, because we'll probably need one or the two, but you don't really want to upset the harmony of the squad because it's got to where we are now. And I always said, and I said, look, we probably need that midfielder in, and maybe like I said, the youngster for the right back. That's where I think the focus needs to be for this window. But I honestly wouldn't go with like an overhaul, maybe 1-2 players coming in, because like I said, we need to try and keep the squad harmony that we've got, because it's got to where we are now. And I think that the same with Eddie Howe. I think that's probably how Eddie Howe's going to look at it. He'll probably go, this season's going to be a one where we just bring in who we need to bring in. Because even if we look at the summer transfer window, we didn't necessarily bring players in. You look at that, João Pedro now. You look at that and you're going, well, do we actually need him now? Yeah, there's so many players that you look at. Like, how disappointed were we that we didn't sign Jesse Lingard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I added that there by Ray about a left back. I think I'm just thinking that there'd only be one exception I'd make, and it's the player I've been ranting and raving on that we should be signing all season. And I was just reading there. I think we are finally officially linked with them, and it's Evan Ndika from Frankfurt, and he plays that exact role that Dan Burn plays. He can play in left back and left centre back. He's very athletic. He's confident on the ball. He's a good dribbler, solid defender, and I think they've put a 20 million price tag, which I think is perfectly fair price tag. The only thing is, I think I'm reading that Frankfurt have just offered him a 3-year contract extension. So apparently we've been told to kind of wait back for now on whether when sort of his future hangs in balance, essentially, if he's going to accept that or not. But that would probably be the only exception for me to sign a player on that sort of left side of the defence.
Matt, what's your thinking on what we need this window?
I feel as though there's a few positions that we need starters in. We need a holding mid. We need a holding mid who's a starter, and we also need a 10 who's a starter. Now, Maddison would be ideal,
but we don't play a 10.
No. What I'm saying is a more attacking midfielder at the 3, and then a more defensive midfielder at the 3. So if you're going to play.
But if you bring in that defensive midfielder, you then bring in Bruno in as the more attacking, which he done last season, and then you've got Joe Willock as well. So you've got your 2 attacking midfielders.
Exactly, but also if you wanted to play Bruno more defensive and give that number 6 a rest, you could put Maddison in there. That's what I'm saying. If you have a balance of the midfield inside in that either player, instead of just going all
right. But what we're talking about is this particular window.
Okay, so this particular window, I feel like you'd need to go more with a holding mid to allow Bruno to go forward a bit more. When you spoke about Dubravka earlier, it felt a bit sus that they recalled him the first day back in January. That just felt like the quickest option they had to recall him, they did. So it seems like they wouldn't do that unless there's something going on behind the scenes. Now, you can link him to Leicester, but I felt like he should have gone to Leicester at the start of the season, because when he come in, it seemed like he didn't want to fight for his place, which is fair enough. If that's up to him, he can leave. He's been a great servant, but his attitude seemed to... It didn't make any sense when he did leave, and when he put up that post about going to Manchester United, it just felt like, oh, is that it? Is that how you're going to leave?
Yeah, that looked like I'm leaving, and then now this one's like I'm back home at Newcastle. Well, only because you really didn't get a start at Manchester United. I honestly think the Leicester City move would be perfect for him. Leicester's a great club, yeah.
A struggling club at the minute, though. I think they've probably got one of the weakest squads in the league. So I mean, Vardy's on his way out.
But if you look at that, yeah, but if you look at that and if you think if Tielemans is not going to sign a contract, which I don't think he's going to. And I know everyone keeps on going about, oh, Tielemans will go to a big club. Right. Is there any other club at this moment in time that you would look at and go, I want to sign for them? Arsenal I don't think Arsenal would go, yeah, but I don't think Arsenal would go for him, because I don't think that's probably an area that they really need at the moment. But you're looking at that and you're just going, right, I want to go there because they've managed to get Sven Botman in, they've managed to get Kieran Trippier in, they've managed to get Alexander Isak in, they've managed to get Bruno Guimaraes in. Yeah, really quality players. And he's probably looking at that and going, look at the improvements that he's got out of players like Joe Linton and like that. Why wouldn't you want to come and play at Newcastle? Because we're a club that's on the up. And I think that's been I don't necessarily, whether or not it's my pessimism or not, but I don't necessarily think we're in a title fight. Just because, where it is. I do genuinely think we're in a fight for the top 4. And like I said, the fact that even on Friday, when Mark McAdam said, oh, if Newcastle finish in the top 7, it's a heck of an achievement. I was a little bit disappointed at the thought of finishing 7th. Yeah. So And that's where it shows how far we've come in a very short space of time. That we're now looking, because of what we've done so far this season, and going, I'll be disappointed if we finish 7th. Yeah, it is just that. But it's difficult. Like I said, I would love it if it was, if we're going to go for it, if we're going to go for the signings, I would say Dubravka goes to Leicester, Tielemans comes in as the midfield reinforcement that we need, and we look at the young right back now, whether or not that's at Harrison Ashby from West Ham, or that Real Valladolid young right back that we're looking at. Now, the fact that he's played in the Liga matches, yeah, probably is the one where you look at and go, well, hang on, if he's actually playing in the Liga matches, he's probably got a little bit more in terms of the development.
Junior.
Exactly. So if he's been able to get that development and he's playing in the Liga already, he's probably going to learn even more. Yeah.
It looks like a typical Newcastle signing, doesn't it? 18 years of age, showing clearly, glimpses of ability early on, and it's just that signing for the future that, what owners have spoke about so often, and Ashworth's came out and said, and Dean Hales, about how they do want to go for these young players and really build for the future, because that's something that we didn't see, obviously, under Ashley. So it would be a typical, new consortium.
Well, we tried to go young under Ashley, but that was only because he wanted to get the market value from them. Whereas I don't sense that that's necessarily. Yeah, it might be a part of it, but I think the sense of it is, why not bring the youth in? And I'm probably going to mirror and say, look at Arsenal, because Arsenal have done that. Arteta's brought in quite a lot of young players. He's spent the time with them, and look at where they are after a couple of years of working together. So I think that's a great thing in terms of doing it. Like you said, bringing the youth through. We'll move away from transfers, because frankly, we could talk about it all night, and we'll probably dream up so many signings that we could get. Yeah. So we'll finish on that. What we'll do is we're just gonna have a quick look at the preview, and more in trepidation for me, because this is probably the one where it is, I would say, probably our biggest game of the season, which is Arsenal v Newcastle. Yeah, probably two of the best teams in terms of like the way that they've been playing. Got two of the best defensive records. And looking at that, yes, you could probably look at it and go, they're missing Gabriel Jesus, so that's probably a little bit of a bonus for us. But they've still got some really good players. Yeah, Saka's looking good. Martinelli looks good. Partey looks like one of the best defensive midfielders in the league at the minute. So looking at that, who's really going to be our threats for tomorrow? And we'll go to you first, Joe.
Obviously, like you said, they're out with Jesus, and Nketiah has stepped up the past 2 games. I don't think he's. I mean, I'm just going to be curse me, yes, I'm touching wood. I don't think he's the next best thing in Nketiah. I think he'll fill in like he did last season. He has scored 2 goals in the 2 games he's played, but attacking wise, Saka, he's done well recently. I think he scored the last game. They're a young side, overall, second youngest manager in the league. I think they have the youngest team in the league. Correct us on that, but I'm pretty sure they do. Very fast attackers, but they'll be looking to exploit Dan Burn, I think, which most teams sort of do with any sort of pace down the right side. So I think that they'll probably do that. But no, I think we've got to do. If you put history aside, which I know it's pretty odd, we've not won there in 12 years, which is quite it's a significant, substantial amount of time not to win a game. But you have to also look at Arsenal. I believe have only kept only one team has failed to score against Arsenal when playing at Arsenal this season. And with the amount of goals we've been scoring, the format that we're in, I think we'll go there, and I do think we'll at least get a point. And fingers crossed, we can end the 12-year curse.
Do you think defensively that's where Arsenal's weakness is?
Yeah, I know they've got nearly as good as a defensive record as us, but I do think that you can't gamble on them keeping clean sheets.
So let's say in terms of our high press, if we start doing the high press against their defence, would they be able to handle it? Because I watched that game against Brighton, and despite the fact that it looked comfortable, they nearly threw it away towards the end because of the defensive mistakes on that. I actually also think the third goal, when you look at it, his foot was offside, but he was like closer towards like the touchline than he was the goal. So that little thing, you could have been at 4-3, and then you're looking at a different game. So I actually think the defense is probably the weakest. From
100%. I mean, they've got a really fluid attack. They score plenty of goals, but they're definitely not polished defensively by all means.
Matt, who's probably your players that you're looking at? I'll tell you mine. I actually think we'll probably need to look out for Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard. Because for me, if we're going back to that Brighton game, Odegaard did one heck of a pass. It was like a no-look pass to Martinelli because they've just had that chemistry. It was like unreal, that pass. When if you haven't watched it, go and watch it, because it was just like, it probably reminded me of, the Yuan Kabai one against Stoke. He just passed it through and Cisse got on at the end of it. So it was sort of like that sort of one, and that was the one when I looked at the Kabai when I was like, what a pass. Yeah, so it's really good. Who's your sort of like main threats for Arsenal?
To be honest, the majority of the team, Arsenal looked like a title-winning team this season. Odegaard's basically come back from the World Cup looking like prime Mesut Ozil. So I am worried about the whole team. This is the main game I was probably most worried about.
Hopefully, Odegaard go to the World Cup?
No, but I mean just the World Cup break. The whole game from last season. Hopefully, they've still got scars from that game, and they still feel like the same from that game, because the way we embarrassed them, the way we battered them. Hopefully, we take that into this game, but I just can't see that happening. If I'm being realistic, I'll be happy with a draw. But as good as we've been this season, I can't see either team like battering either team, if that makes sense. I could only see a draw, or like a little tight game with a 1-0 or 2-1, just because of how stubborn both teams are, how well both teams are playing. Newcastle are very hard to beat at the minute, but so are Arsenal. So,
but if we're looking at the record, Arsenal have played 16 games. They've won 14, drew 1, and lost 1. Newcastle have played 17 games, won 9, drew 7, lost 1. Yeah. So if you're looking at that record, you're probably saying it's an Arsenal win.
I mean, like I said, Arsenal have the history on it. They've became quite comfortable playing like against us at the Emirates, but history's there to be changed. So fingers crossed.
The question is, both teams have got the record of only losing once this season. Will they both have that record at the end of the game?
Yes, because we'll draw.
It'll be a draw.
I really do think we'll draw.
So obviously we've looked at Arsenal. Let's look at and we'll do like a little bit of a we've jumped in terms of what you think the predictions will be, so we don't need to do that. So what we'll do is we'll look at what you think the team will be.
I think we might. This is probably me thinking optimistically, but I don't know if he'll change it. But we might see Maxi come in and in that left wing position, and then put Joe Linton back into the central midfield department with dropping Willock. But then again, I always like to see a player against his old club. Just tend to cause a bit of a stir up. So I'm not sure. I think the most likely lineup is going to be the same one we saw last game, but there is definitely a possibility that Maxi could start and Joe Linton could drop back into centre midfield.
Well, I did my own prediction in terms of the lineup for the game on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, which people may have seen. I only made one change, and that change was Callum Wilson for Chris Wood.
Oh yes, he'll definitely start.
The reason why I kept Joe Linton where he was because I think we need to keep the three in the midfield, to help with. But if, as you say, and I probably agree, they'll probably try and target Dan Burn, Joe Linton is the player that you need to have there to be, because he works back and helps covering that. Maxi doesn't. Now Maxi's probably a player. If let's say it's 1-1, towards the end of the game, but we're trying to build into that, and Arsenal are maybe tiring at the back. Maxi's that sort of player that you want to bring on to have that impact. So that for me is why I probably looked and said we'd probably only change it in that sense. I can't see any other real changes. Just for me, like, you can't change that back line. Botman has to play. That's another one. Botman does not have a defeat on his record. If he plays tomorrow, will that be intact? I'd love it to be, because I'd love the record. Yeah, you'd just be like, if Botman plays, we know we're going to win. From that sense, I don't think there's going to be that many changes. I think, if anything, he'll probably bring Callum Wilson in purely because you need Callum Wilson to, if we're looking back at obviously the last home game, to terrorise their defence, because he was absolutely all over their defence, and their defence just couldn't handle him. Matt, what's your thoughts on what the lineup's going to be?
I think Joe Linton, I think Callum Wilson will come back into the team, and I think Miggy will start as the front three, just because it worked right from Joe Linton and Miggy on either side. And then I think that the midfield three will be the same as been throughout the season, really. Joe Willock, Shaw Longstaff, and Bruno.
I think can't really be anyone else, can it?
No,
unless you're bringing Elliot Anderson, it can't really be anyone else. And in terms of the defence, you're not going to drop Trippier, you're not going to drop Shaw, you're not going to drop Botman. Given the injuries to Target, you're not going to drop Dan Burn, and Nick Pope is Nick Pope, and you're not going to drop him because he's the keeper with the most clean sheets this season. So you're not going to, drop him. So obviously we're all agreed there's one change: Callum Wilson coming in for Chris Wood. Used to both think the unbeaten run's going to continue, and fingers crossed you're both right. Now, what we're going to do, just for the final part of this, because we had someone missing last week when we did our quiz, and he tells me he hasn't watched it. So we're going to jump with a couple of them out. Now, this one, which I'm going to do, is we're going to do a couple of them. Matt knows the answers, so Matt can't get involved. Matt can just sit back and relax and maybe watch you squirm. So I'm going to give you clues. It's going to be one clue at a time. And if you think you know it, you can.
Is this like Stuart's game?
It is, but obviously because it's only you playing, we can't really do if you guess you're out. So the first one, it is a football ground.
All right.
And it's a football ground
in the league.
No, it's a football ground that Newcastle will have played at in 2022.
Right.
So, first clue: I've been part of a Sky TV series in the past.
Ooh. I'm not sure, but I'll guess Wembley.
Nope. Second clue: I have hosted Olympic and international football, as well as rugby league and rugby union matches.
Right, I just want to get this out of the way. It's not SJP, is it?
What do you want to have the guess at?
I will guess in James's Park.
You are correct.
Yeah, 'cause I know they play rugby and stuff there. So
The other clue was I have the largest cantilever structure in Europe, which is the roof. And the final one was I am known to have a sloping pitch.
hey, I definitely would have got it by that one.
I think most ones would have got that.
How long did it take for them to get last week?
I think quite a few.
So they didn't get it after the second one?
No.
Oh.
No. I think it was from the cantilever structure. I think that was the one that they got, that it was got on. We'll go with this one.
Yeah.
I've had a running track as part of the stadium.
So am I just guessing another stadium in the Prem again?
Well, any stadium that Newcastle would have played at in 2022.
Running track. Is that West Ham's?
No.
No, right.
I've also hosted cricket and greyhound racing.
Greyhound, like. Stadium. Oh no, well, I'm being there. Leeds is.
No.
No.
And this will probably confirm that to no. You can get to me via the London Underground.
Right. So London team. Stamford Bridge.
Correct.
Hey.
And the final clue was I have a stand called after a garden storage unit.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the shed end.
Now,
what we'll do is we'll just do one, and I'm going to try and see which one. Who do I go? We'll go with this one. This is a player. So it's a player that's currently in the squad.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the team. So my first team was Portsmouth.
Portsmouth. Can you confirm if he's in the squad or the starting 11, or you're not allowed?
He is in the squad.
He's just squad. So, right. Portsmouth. Let's have a think. Nick Pope?
Nope. My second team I played for was Dagenham and Redbridge.
It's going to be like Trippier or something, is it?
No.
Yeah, okay.
The third team I played for is Notts County.
No, that was... it's not sure. Arsenal. It's not Willock.
If you don't know, I can go on to the...
No. I want to guess. I'll guess. Jacob Murphy.
No.
Yeah.
Fourth team I was at was Swindon Town.
Swindon. Proper championship basher then. 40. This is quite a lot of clubs, Christ. Let's think. I need another clue.
The fifth team I played for was Bournemouth.
Richie.
Yeah.
No.
I'll also say, I think Stu got that on the first one, which was Portsmouth.
Oh, fair play to Stuart, because I did not know that Richie played for Portsmouth.
And we'll do one more, which we're going to ask, which hopefully your knowledge of goal scorers is good. Who scored the first goal in the 2-1 win over Tranmere in the Carabao Cup?
Tranmere. How long ago was that?
this season.
Chris Wood.
Nope, it was Jamal Lascelles.
Jamal Lascelles.
And if we're going to go back to last season, it wasn't in 2022, but I just wanted to include it.
Mm-hmm.
Who scored our only goal in the 2-1 defeat last season to Wolves?
Let's pick some random games here. Christ.
Think
Is
of a
it
player who was
a trick question? A known goal, is it?
No, it
Right.
isn't an own goal. I wasn't that mean.
Right. But I genuinely, this is. Did you say last season? This was.
Yeah.
I'll guess Jordan.
No. It was the last goal to be scored under the Mike Ashley era.
All right.
And it was scored by Jeff Hendrick.
Jeffy Hendrick. Christ.
So I think it's safe to say he definitely didn't watch the podcast last week. Otherwise, you probably would have got these. And you probably wouldn't have won last week either because you've been very poor on that. But that's rounded it off.
Yeah.
It's been quite a long one because we probably had quite a lot to discuss in terms of reviewing 2022, looking at the transfer targets and looking at tomorrow's game. We will be back on Friday for the look ahead again as we look ahead to the Sheffield Wednesday Cup game. And we'll look at, many things. Obviously, we'll look ahead to the Cup game then. We may look back at the Arsenal game, but obviously what we'll do, we'll see what the topics are at the time and what we need to look ahead to. So thank you for sticking with us. It was quite a long one tonight. Your comments and are always appreciated. Your time is also appreciated for both Joel and Matt, who have stepped in to make sure that I wasn't all on my own, just speaking to myself. So thank you for that. Probably wouldn't have been as entertaining a show. So thank you. And we'll see you on Friday for the look ahead. Thank you for watching.